Sawadee Krap. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests. Welcome to the Symposiums by Revolution Thailand in collaboration with Siam Paragon Bangkok Watch Week 2025. I'm Kim Goodburn and I'm honored to be your host for this afternoon. So ladies and gentlemen, yesterday through our symposiums, we took you all on a journey to explore the insightful and inspiring stories behind renowned watch brands such as Piaget, Panerai, and of course to end off yesterday's afternoon with Frank Miller. But today we take you on further journey in the world of horology, starting with our first symposium of today with one of the most groundbreaking forces in watchmaking, that is the independent watch brands, or sometimes they are known as the indies. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our moderator for this first symposium. Please give a big round of applause to Mr. Wei Koh, founder and CEO of Revolution. And next up, joining us on stage, please give a big round of applause to Mr. Ong Ban, CEO of Sincere and Pendulum. And following up on stage, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Xavier de Roquemaurel, CEO of Czapek Cie. I got your name right twice in a row. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause to Mr. Pascal Raffy, owner of Bovet. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Please take a seat. Wow, what an honor to have all four of you on stage here at the Bangkok Watch Week 2025. But before we head into today's topic, independent watchmaking, I'd like to pass this stage over to Mr. Wei. Please lead us into this session.
Well, thank you very much. I will leave it to Ong Ban later to explain from his perspective and from an industry perspective what he feels is really at the epicenter of independent watchmaking. I'll just give you a little bit of an analogy, if you don't mind. So I also happen to love cinema, and I was interviewing Samuel L. Jackson. And when I was interviewing him, I said, while you were making Pulp Fiction, did you realize it would be a film that would change the genre of cinema completely? And he said, absolutely not. When we were making this movie, we made it entirely for ourselves. We were and actually we thought no one will ever watch this movie. It's far too crazy. And because of that, it was such a beautiful and personal expression of one man's vision, right? Quentin Tarantino. Now, I don't want to put him, well, he is on stage as well, but I don't want to put him too much in the spotlight before because I want him to tell you this story as well. But a similar thing happened to Pascal Raffy, right? So he was in the middle of creating a watch called the Prowess 1, which went on to win the Geneva Grand Prix, incidentally, as well. And this is a timepiece that has a perpetual calendar, a tourbillon, but an incredible world time display that corrects for all 4 daylight saving times in the world. Were you aware that there were 4 daylight savings times?
Yes.
You were? Okay, good. But when he was conceptualizing this timepiece, he was sitting in front of it with his team. They were ready to go. The watch was done. And he said, wait a second, no, we have to stop and we have to start all over again because I must incorporate this. Otherwise, the world time function has no meaning, right? And as a result, he took the decision to delay the timepiece for, I would say, 1, possibly 2 years, but because he wanted to express something with the fullest level of integrity. And that, to me, is what independent watchmaking is about. It's not about the size of the company. Strictly speaking, Rolex is independent as well. It's about the capacity to make a decision with not a financial return as its ultimate goal, but to express yourself with the greatest level of integrity. And I think Mr. Raffy, the incredible Xavier de Roquemaurel, and Ong Ban are the guys that we need to talk about related to this. So Ong Ban, from your perspective, sir, what is independent watchmaking?
So I think for today's discussion in the context of what we are going to cover today, like we rightly say, independent brands today refer to independent manufacturer that can exercise independent decision making and focusing highly on creativity and innovation. Before that, I think we're here today obviously to celebrate, the marvel of mechanical excellence, all the wonderful horological achievement that have happened in the last few decades. So maybe I would like just to take us back in terms of timeline, just a little bit back to where I think all this started and our journey also as a retailer that accompany this timeline. One of the most significant moments in the watch industry that has occurred in the last century was actually 1989 when Patek celebrated their 150th anniversary. So that was to me the point whereby the mechanical watch was highly revived. And with the caliber 89, remember with the officer watch, with the jumping hour, that sets the tone for the next few decades. So we talk about risk. We talk about independent watchmaking. A fun fact here, in 1988, there were in existence in the whole world 500 tourbillons, which means in the possession of museum, in the possession of collectors, and everyone else. So two independent companies in the early 90s came out to revive this complication. And in the early 90s, tourbillon is not popular compared to what it is today. One was Frank, and one was Daniel Roth. So they were small independents. And it shows the tenacity of independent companies that took enormous amount of risks. And in the 90s, I call it the romantic era of watchmaking, because literally everything that was brought out by the independent companies, I think all of us fell in love with, from Paul Jones, Resonance, even to the Chrono Fighter of Eric Loff. So in this context, I think we come to the modern days, and we have Czapek and Bovet, and I think we'll talk to Mr. Raffy and Xavier about what drive their brands, and that makes it so compelling for customers to engage, the wholesome passion into the creation.
Yeah, of course. Like you were just talking about how independent watch brands has this creativity and that bold statement to actually be unique from other watchmakers. So I actually wanted to pass over to Xavier and just talk about the philosophy behind your brand.
So it's a revival.
Yep.
Czapek has been resurrected, and of course this brings quite a few elements regarding creativity. Which direction are we going to take? How much are we going to be true to Czapek? Should we be true to Czapek? I ask you the question. Ask yourself the question. If tomorrow morning you were reviving a brand of a beautiful product in Thailand, would you be true to the founder or not? We decided to be true because we think it's all about your soul, and it's about the soul of the founder, and we think a brand is a living entity. It's not a toy in the hand of its owner. It has its own independence. And independence and freedom is what is going to guide the development. So we thought about this founder, François Czapek, and we decided to put a fourth chair, because we were three at the beginning. And so there was 4 chairs, one for each of us, plus an empty chair. And we were asking ourselves, what would François Czapek like to do tomorrow? And we looked at creativity, old pocket watches that were sold by Antique Home, Christie's or Sotheby's. And from that library of images, we had no phones. We had only 15,000 Swiss francs at the beginning. So we couldn't buy them. Now we buy them every year. But at the beginning, there was no Czapek museum. And we looked out of that, and we understood that he was in love with beauty, and he was trying to create beauty out of watchmaking. He was more a beauty creator than an engineer. And so that was setting a direction for us. So we selected one watch, the watch that you see here, that is the number 3430, and it was a strict decision of mine, saying this should mark the direction for us. It should set a direction. And we continued to learn about Czapek over the years to discover his story, and we actually found the end stories and different elements that are more on the right of these images. If I stay on the creativity, which is the question, we developed one watch which code name was from past to present. The idea was to help you understand what could be the evolution over time of Czapek watches from 1845, 1850, 1860 to 2015 when we revived the brand. And that was the first watch. And the second watch was from present to future. It was a tourbillon, another after the 500, and that was setting the direction for the future. And from there we started playing. Okay, and then I have to explain now these two images. This one is very important because when we discovered it, we realized that he was the watchmaker of the Napoleon family, of the Prince Napoleon, which is Jérôme Bonaparte, and that he had a store in the famous Place Vendôme. And actually, we never found historical evidence of another store for watchmaking in the Place Vendôme before. So according to the source we have, it's the first store. And now we have this beautiful image on the right, which is the end of the story. So it could be a terrible image or a nice image because it's the one prefiguring of the revival. So it's a barricade. It's during a revolution in Paris that happened in 1870-71. It's called La Commune. It was a bloodbath. It's the one that the French bills before there was euro were referring to. So it's very, very French. And on the left here, you can see that on the store, written Czapek Cie. It's an old picture that was found during the celebration of the 250 years of the Commune. 150 years of the Commune. So that's about the story. So I leave now to Pascal. Following on Bovet, I think I've been talking too much.
No, that's all. I'm very fine with this. Very interesting, by the way. Very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, before than anything, I would like to tell you that I'm delighted to be back in Bangkok. I find all of you very welcoming. I'm very touched by the human touch. And so I'm spending with my team, I thank Jamel, Rodolphe to be with us, together with all Pendulum, our dear partner here in Thailand. What brings the inspiration to me, I have to tell you, it's emotion. The House of Bovet dates 1822. In all collections around the planet, on all continents, you will find Bovet pocket timepieces of the 19th century. And by the way, this pocket timepiece that some people say, it's old-fashioned. Imagine since 20 years how many have been displaying pocket timepieces even though their inception is the 21st century. What I want to say here is that if you want to build our future, let's be very proud of our roots, our tradition, from where we come. It builds the education for emotion, for the beautiful, for the crafts, and to respect the artisans. So my motivation is, what am I going to do with the time that is given to me? Do I want to do watches? No, I will take my mobile. We are nearly all slaves of this impersonal machine. I need to think, develop, engineer with all my artisans, timepieces. And where is the difference? In French, you would say garde-temps. What means garde-temps? To keep the time in its philosophical, historical, dimensional for crafts and beautiful mechanics philosophy. And then you need to share it with your people. We are very lucky to be fully integrated since 2006. We do control all the watchmaking operations under the same roof. And I thank you so much for the visit you paid us, dear Wei, with your team. From the stamping to the hairspring, from the dies to the hands, from cases also, everything is under the same roof. So you have also a moral duty. Which one? Our artisans in beautiful Switzerland in winter wake up, it's dark. They come to the second house, the house of Bovet. to go back at home and it's dark again. They spend so much time in the house. You need to nurture their passion. You need to bring them every year to a step further. And then, like two hands to applaud, we are the house where crafts are crucial, but beautiful mechanics and innovation also. And the story of the prowess one, related to the Result 30, is what I call my journey of time with my people for the most beautiful pleasure of our collectors. This is the house of Bovet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raffy. You know, what is interesting to me is the gentleman that you see here, Xavier and Mr. Raffy, they are running companies, they own companies, but they are artists, right? There's a French writer, Proust, and he said that elegance is a world that each of us sees but is unseen by others. And art is the capacity to make that manifest. And each of these gentlemen makes it manifest in a very beautiful way. Mr. Raffy is being quite modest, actually, because Bovet, to me, is the maison that has this capacity to unite incredibly technical watchmaking, such as a double-sided tourbillon, a roller system, perpetual calendars, but with a sense of cosmic beauty. And I think that comes very specifically from Mr. Raffy, right? Like, you ask him what he enjoys, he loves to be in Moitié, his castle, observing the stars, understanding the history of the relationship between our planets as well. And that gives him the capacity to express it in watches, such as the Recital 22, which has this amazing tellurium, a view of the Earth from on top of it, above it, like looking down from the North Pole. Then you have a three-dimensional moon that is rotating and moving around the Earth at the same time as well. And then on top of that, you have a perpetual calendar, and on top of that, you have a tourbillon as well. Xavier, who will explain this himself, has had an amazing capacity to understand the past, but then translate it into something that is vibrant and contemporary. And the watch I'm wearing on my wrist is exactly that. And I would like to know, Xavier, the story of the Antarctique, the Passage du Drac, or Drake, and how you created one of the kind of coolest integrated bracelet sport chic watches at a time where you were starting to really find your own voice as a creator.
With a gin and tonic in the hand.
With a gin and tonic in his hand. Excellent.
I was in Madrid and talking to Carlos, who is a famous person in the watch industry. And he said to me, Xavier, it's nice. You created the Quai de Berg, so from past to present. You created
the Quai de Berg was a watch based on the pocket watch you saw.
Yeah. And then the tourbillon, which was an evolution. He said to me, you know, I have the figures because I have got a library of watches and I see what people look at. And they only look at three watches, which today are called the Trinity. And you know them, and we are forbidden to speak about other brands, so I won't cite them, but you should know which are the three. And then it was 2017, and they told me, it's already so boring. It's only three watches that capture 90% of the attention. And so he kind of put it as a fun, friendly challenge around the glass of doing something new in sport automatic bracelet integrated watches. And I took the challenge. I found it fun. And we had our third watch in the pipeline nearly ready. And I thought, okay, we can do for the fourth watch something in that direction. And it was by talking to you, to collectors, who were telling me, you know, I love the Quai de Berg, but I wear it on Sunday because it's classic and it's very elegant. And during the week, I wear a watch that is a daily banger because my boss, that's true, huh? My boss believes he knows very much watches, but I have to wear a watch that is below and that is a no.
Can't outshine your boss,
that
right?
is so I have to be careful, you know. And again, could you make a watch that would be more Haute Horlogerie? And I understood there that it was on the movement that it was critical to work on. Because the three watches that we were commenting were not addressing the love for Haute Horlogerie of the watch lovers. They were making a daily banger of a higher level. just raising the level. But they were not going into deep anglage, a lot of inward angles, internal angles, finishing, mirror polish. They were just going to the most industrial version of haute horlogerie. And so we developed the new movement from scratch, with all the mistakes that happen when you are beginning. And many of these mistakes are important because they are the one leading the innovation. It's very often a problem that make you invent something new. And then we worked on the bracelets because another collector told me, whatever is your case, it's only the bracelet that will make the watch mythical. So we worked on the bracelet from that angle. So it's a lot about you guys, in fact. It's about listening to you and understanding what you're looking for. You're not capable to give us a design, and you're not asked to do that, but to give us the input that will make us design the right watch.
That's amazing. And for those of you who have never worn an Antarctique, please do so somehow during this fair and turn it over, because the movement is an absolute revelation. It is the only movement in the sports chic watch that has this kind of architecture. It's a full bridge movement, meaning that every wheel in the gear train has its own unique bridge. And every one of those bridges is configured as a skeletonized finger bridge, which is incredibly elegant, right? But okay, Ban, I want to ask you a question as well. Ban and I both love our dogs. I have 2 miniature long-haired sausage dogs. How many do you have, Ban?
I have 2 at the moment.
Okay, 2. So if I was, and I say this in a very positive way, if I was going to associate Ban with a breed of dog, it would be the Legato Romagnolo. Does anyone know what kind of dog that is?
Oh, we have one in the audience.
Yes, because Nicholas has one, right?
Oh.
He has.
What
What is that dog's unique capability, Nicholas? It is the Ban is exactly in the world that can smell truffles and hunt them down, right? And Ban is exactly that. He has the capacity to understand what is good when no one else can, right?
That's a great analogy.
No,
I don't go around smelling the ground.
No, but I would like to know, because I also consider Sincere and Pendulum's joint effort, SHH, to be a showcase of discovery and of discovering the greatest in independent watchmaking. How do you make your decisions, who you would like to partner with, and how did you come to work in collaboration with Bovet and with Czapek?
I think first and foremost, our market, we are lucky to be operating in Southeast Asia. In Southeast Asia, actually the collectors, the customers, are early adopters of independent brands. You know, from the 90s onwards, like I mentioned, we brought in Frank Muller, we brought in François Beaujon, and many other independents which have since gone bigger. And for us, is when you see our merchandising at a shop, I mean, you see watches and all the nice novelties on display, but actually the work behind it is actually quite serious. There are a lot of factors that goes into consideration before we take on a brand. Even today, Kate and myself, we evaluate a brand, a potential brand, almost every week. Of course, you know, if you take a brand every week, you end up quite a lot at the end of the year. But we don't do that because our criteria is very high. Ability of the brand to fix a problem, and also the vision of the owners are very key to us. And you know, the worst form of customer service I can ever imagine, if someone buys an independent brand from us, 20 years down the line, he spent all his saving on this watch, the crown is broken, he comes back to us and we says, sorry, we can't fix your watch. I think that would be a disaster. So as we take on a brand, that's something we have in mind, and we do deal with the problems ahead whenever we look at the brand. So, I mean, our ambition is always to take on the latest and the best. But sometimes, you know, it comes with a lot of risk as well. And along the last 17 years, we have also experienced failure, and that makes us smarter the next round in our evaluation processes. So it is a combination of many things, but finally, I think the most important point is we listen to our customers. So we listen to our customers, We see our customers regularly. They are like friends to us. Each time you go to a sincere pendulum shop, you have communities of collectors who gather there. And they are the one who give us the most valuable feedback. Because at the end of the day, you can, like all you want, but if they don't feel the emotion, if they don't feel the attachment to the product, they ain't going to own the watch, So I think in summary, a combination of many things with the been the most important factor in mind. And today, I must say, a lot of our customers, they spend more time on watches than we do in our job. So a lot of them do know much more than us. So it's important that their wishes are fulfilled.
Thank you very much, Ban. One thing that I think is important to stress also is when it comes to independent watchmaking, you fall in love with the timepiece, but you fall in love also with the creator as a human being as well. And I would say that, and you guys can tell me as well, because there's a lot of collectors in this room, everyone that I know who's managed to spend time with Xavier, with Mr. Raffy, with Nick Rudez, with Ban and Kate, they're like, I love these people. And I think that's so incredibly important as well. Okay, so we talked about poetry, singularity, voice. I want to talk about the timepiece that's on Mr. Rafi's wrist right now, right? So this is a timepiece that he calls Recital 30, right? This is a watch that is a world timer, but is the first actual meaningful world timepiece in the world. Why? Because every world time watch has one major issue, and it's it doesn't correct for the 4 different daylight savings times that we have in the world. So even though I love I won't say the brand, my Cloisonné enamel world timer literally makes no sense during half of the year, right? So at that point, you just wear it because it's really beautiful. But I think that wasn't enough for Mr. Raffy, and I want to know from him, his perspective, what was the journey in terms of creating the first world timer that compensated for these 4 different daylight savings times and arrived at the incredible watch on your wrist?
I'm going to say that for the first time, I'm going to thank the pandemic. What happened during the pandemic, for all of us, we were all wrong on teams around the planet. And we were nearly all wrong on time zones between Tokyo, Singapore, Dubai, Geneva, San Francisco. Doing invites, majority of people are not looking exactly what time it is. It's 10 a.m. Geneva time. And then I promised myself, we have to try with all the team, that positive pressure, to bring something meaningful, to develop a solution to the daylight saving time issue. And we knew since day one that in case the 70 last countries using the daylight saving time issue will decide to stop, the timepiece will be the witness of 200 years of humankind's history. So this, I loved it. And then developing the prowess one, who won the mechanical exception last year at GPHG, one of the 5 in the last 7 years, immediately I said to myself, Wei, we will not wear a prowess one every day. It's a timepiece for a ceremony. But on the everyday basis, I would love to wear a complication, beautifully seated on the wrist, 42 millimeters, 11.8 thickness, with some freshness. It's not because we are a house of 203 years that we are old-fashioned. I don't believe in fashion. Fashion is ephemeral. I believe in tradition. But we can be positive. Then this bracelet is a sky blue bracelet. The white triangle you saw in the movement is for the sun. The white stripes at the outside dial is for the light. And then this timepiece has a touch of vintage. It's nice, friendly, and so easy to use. And it took us 7 years to develop the mechanism. And I said, thank you very much. Another beautiful movement, fully integrated. 2 minutes after, I say to myself, even being the captain of the house, we have to repeat. So imagine your artisans, they spent 5 years to develop a movement. But you realize that something is missing. We had developed at that time a plain dial with 24 segments for the 24 time zones. But having developed a perpetual calendar, fully skeleton, with an isolator patented for the perpetual to protect it between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., the rollers, the tourbillon carriage, brand new. What was missing? The rollers. Because the rollers, a simple idea, allow you to print at 90 degrees the four faces of the roller. And then pushing your crown between UTC, American time in summer, Europe, America, summertime, and Europe, winter time. You have tuned, thanks to your artisans, the first word timer ever accurate all year long. So you repeat, and panic was in the room. And the youngest engineer said, Mr. Raffy is right. We're going to do it. We postponed the presentation of the timepiece 13 months, and thanks to the will, the goodwill, the passion, they did it. I'm not a watchmaker. I act, think, behave as a collector. I need to bring to my collector every single morning a new detail for which he will selfishly be happy to tune, to clean, to observe, to appreciate. And then, as all collectors say in our house, they see that yes, indeed, 100 human beings are needed, sharing the same philosophy for the beautiful, in order to give you that little smile of happiness. This is what we love. This is why the house stands, and I love to say, I need to have a house where time finds meaning. Fashion is ephemeral. Tradition is so important.
And that is independent watchmaking. Great answer. Thank you very much, Mr. Raffy. Incidentally, I have a technical editor. Her hobby on the weekends is to research patents. And we discovered that the patents for the timepieces from Bovet are applied with Mr. Raffy's name, meaning he's the one that conceptualized the systems, the time-telling systems, in collaboration with a technical person. So it just goes to show you how deeply involved he is as well. I would say, now I want to talk to my dear friend Xavier de Roquemaurel. We've known each other for, I would say, 20 years now. We both started, obviously, when we were 16 years old. You're looking fantastic. And the following question I want to ask, which is, I think, very beautifully embodied by the new Rattrapant you've launched, is many members of the audience would look at you on this stage and think that the journey to really create an independent watch brand with great integrity and with amazing timepieces seems relatively easy. But actually, it's excruciatingly difficult. And it's full of suffering and agony, right? And he would be uncomfortable for me to say this, but I think it's important to understand that he has sacrificed everything for Czapek, including his health, right? Including, he almost gave his life to this brand as well. And I want to know from your perspective, like the hardest moments and how you overcame them and how you poured all of your life energy into timepieces like the beautiful new Rattrapant that we see this year.
That's the good unexpected question. Actually, this year is a tough year. It's possibly the toughest of all 10 years. I don't know for you, Pascal, but for us, it's a tough year. It's a tough year because it's a big change of paradigm, and you have to adapt your company to the new market. And it's like making a new company out of your company. So it's a tough moment. The launch, I mean, I had nothing to lose. I was unemployed before. And that's possibly a condition that is a helpful condition, because when you've lost everything, nobody, I would steal you more than what you have. No? So I would say, at that moment, the thing I didn't sacrifice ever was my wife and my family. I've got 5 kids. And my wife has been the other secret weapon of Czapek. And so she's tremendously important in the success of the company. And always in the shadow because she likes not to be seen. And then I had this moment of reacting to the COVID, which was a crisis with a great opportunity, as all crises bring. We just are delayed for the opportunity of this current crisis to see it, but it will come. It will come. But then there was a huge work to do, because most of the supplying partners were closed or were operating at slow speed, and to get the rhythm going, we had to compensate with extra work, because you cannot stop a company. A company, it's like a human body. The heart needs to go on and on and on. So you need to work twice harder, twice more intensely, no weekends, no break, nothing. And that's when I had my accident, and I literally passed away, but then God given a second life, which is a chance. So you can say, well, I met someone who had a second life. It's quite incredible, with limitations, so it's not the same as the first one. And that, of course, was a moment of crisis for the company. And again, as every crisis, it brought an opportunity, and I discovered two persons in the company, Valeria and Nicolas, who were actually stallions, just waiting to run, politely waiting to run. And then they took the company together while I was out of work for quite some time, and brought it to the next level. I just came back for Watches and Wonders to see what was happening and keep pushing together. So yes, there are big challenges, extremely hard moments, but let's focus on what we love, because it's the passion for watches that make us stand up, and that makes that the job that we have is possibly the nicest job on earth, because you create a beautiful product that people can love for so many reasons. For the beauty, for the mechanics, and beyond that, for the philosophy, and maybe a quest of eternity that the garde de temps seems to say in French.
I absolutely love that, and I have to say, you're such an inspirational guy, Xavier. I'm sure you guys know as well, but the roots of Swiss watchmaking are built on resilience, right? The Swiss watch industry was created by the Huguenots who were expelled from France, and with nothing to lose, climbed over the Swiss Alps and settled into Fleurier, all these regions. Why did they settle there? Because no one else wanted to live there, right? It's true. The altitude is too high. It's too cold in the winter. So they farmed for 2.5 weeks, for 3 months out of the year. And the rest of the time, the weather became extremely inclement. But they had with them the ability to craft timepieces because they were the workforce for the French watch industry. And they rebuilt everything. And this spirit of resilience is also what helps to define true independent watchmaking, and certainly you, Xavier. We made this collaboration together, which is in Antarctique called the Revelation. It's a skeletonized timepiece as well, but it has on its bridges luminous paint, so it's called a spectrum. But we like to think of it as kind of a symbol of this resilience, and every time I put it on, it just makes me proud to be your friend,
And that was his idea. So that's when we talk about creativity.
Yeah.
It's also a way to be creative is to let's open the door, have a place at the table, a seat, and say to the person, have a seat and give me your idea or tell me your idea. We'll make it.
Thank you very much. Ban, SHH, or Sincere, celebrated its 70th anniversary last year, right? Talk to me about, I know you weren't there at the founding, right? but talk to me from the perspective of having been there, and I've been, it's safe to say, the key driving force behind this company over the last 3 decades. What is your perspective on independent watchmaking and its continued relevance today? And maybe why is it more popular than ever?
To start with, I love watches, so I hang around with people who also love watches. So for me, I think next year will be my 30th year with Sincere. But to be honest, I'll do the same thing even if they didn't pay me. It's
Oh dear.
don't tell your father. So it's the passion that drives us. It's the passion that drives us, and I think when you are passionate about the product, especially in a thing like a wristwatch, it's easy to converge and talk about it non-stop, and especially if you like timepieces, everyone has their own interpretation of their perfect watch. I have in mind my Grail watch, you have yours, and sometimes the meeting of minds makes you create the perfect watch. So as we plan for our limited edition or 50th anniversary celebration or 70th anniversary celebration, we always ask ourselves what would we want for ourselves as the ultimate Grail watch. And I think if you can get that right, I think you produce a very nice watch together with the partners we work with. Of course, we would have our disagreement with our partners on what works, what don't work. But finally, when the products come out, if it's the right watch, it's the right watch. It's not difficult to be undecided about that. Yeah.
It's funny because when Ban and I chat on WhatsApp or even on the phone, even though our job is to talk about watches, we're still talking about watches. We're just nerding out like nonstop. Mr. Raffy, I want to ask you, because Xavier pointed out something very important to me, in that his secret weapon is his family, right? And as someone who is just recently married, I was married in December last year, and who loves my wife very much, I have also relinquished all self-control in my personal life. I'm not even the second most important person in the house. The second most important person is our first dog, who's a girl. And then the third most important person is our second dog, who's a girl. And I'm the fourth most important person. That's all the decision making I have. I just follow, right? But Mr. Raffy, I would say one of the keys to distinguish great independent watchmaking is also family, right? And you have the great pleasure now of working with the second generation in your family in Maison Bovet. How important is that for you?
Again, like your team, your artisans, your family will always be your first inspiration. Human being thinks that his first instinct is to survive. It's always family, the first instinct. Always, for humankind. And through my three children, my lady, I will never stop thanking them for the patience they had. To settle the facility for 3 followed years, to stay in the mountains, nearly without seeing them, to build that spirit, that philosophy, excuse me to turn the back, this shared philosophy, it takes a lot of time, sweat, good moments, positive pressure, sometimes bad news. They have always been supportive. And a way to thank them is to baptism a collection under the name of each one of the children. So the Miss Audrey is to pay tribute to my oldest daughter. Miss Alexandra has her collection, and the unbelievable Amadeus system, which took 7 years to develop, converting a wrist timepiece in a table clock and a true pocket timepiece, is to say also to my little boy, who is now a man, you have also your collection, I thank you, it's my way to thank you. And again, if you truly live your passion, and sometimes your passion takes over reason, this is where you have also more to thank your family, because sometimes you forget that the best luxury in life is time itself, the time spent with the children, with your lady, with the family. But again, it's my first asset, my first patrimony. And this is why I never say that I have employees. I have some extended family through my artisans. And the two of them make such a beautiful mixture. Family is everything.
Thank you very much. Xavier, you mentioned that you have 5 children. Is it possible that we'll have a next generation of de Roquemaurels joining Czapek in the future?
It's possible. It's possible. It's a different setup because it's actually extremely different, and at the same time it rejoins, as opposites sometimes do, because we are a company that has been crowdfunded in terms of equity, so equity crowdfunded, and that means that we started 25, 90, 120, and now 250 shareholders. So we work more as, I would say, nearly a public company, except we don't want to become public because we don't believe in the short-term quarterly result as a proper indication of success. We believe success is somewhere else. And we don't want to be the slave of that. And what we did is actually to go to the end of the logic by offering to all the employees who are working more than 50%, who have a good evaluation, to become shareholders. So they joined the family in real terms, and we did what is called an ESOP, which is something that Microsoft did very successfully at the beginning, NVIDIA did, so it's not so different from these big names, except that we are small and we want to remain small.
Thank you very much, Xavier. Bon, last question. Sincere Pendulum are family-run companies. We have Kate here and Sharon as well from the families. I mean, talk to me that has made such a critical difference in being able to shape something really for the long term.
I think the most important factor, now that I've experienced many different types of ownership, is finally one that is owner-operator. I think the owner-operator factor is key because it ensures longevity. So I think when you're the owner of a company, when you do something, you think of the repercussion before the financial rewards, versus an investment company or any type of other sort of company. So, I mean, family businesses in the watchmaking industry, I think very, very normal and common. And I think the trust that distilled from there also give the customers a lot of confidence. I think, the other day, we met up with a collector, and he is currently being served by 3 generations of the limbs. Yeah. So to him, he's still buying. He still come to the shop, and he bought from. He's still buying from Kate's grandfather. He buys from Kate's father, and a few days ago he bought from Kate. So I think that's a very clear manifestation of how wonderful a family business in the watch industry is.
Yes, certainly. And actually, on the note of children and family, of course, children are the futures of our generation. So we would like to go back to both brands and maybe start with Xavier first. How do you envision your company and your brand Czapek Cie in the future? Especially, when there's new generations of watch collectors coming up as well. Obviously, way Gen Zs, as we were mentioning yesterday. So how do you kind of envision the future for you?
So, well, we are already the fruit of the past. And we tend, as human beings, to forget that every day we can redefine the future. So tomorrow starts today. And it's, by the way, one of the best roundtable I ever had. So well done to you guys. One where I shared a lot of things that I wasn't planning to share, actually. And transparency is what I see as a way to create a better future. And we will go along that line, trying to find in everything that can be modern, in research, in new materials, a way to express what our fathers, our ancestors have been looking at. And maybe there was not an alloy existing to do it, and maybe today there is. And that's, I think, what the Gen Z would like us to do. Not to revolutionize what we've been doing. Perpetual calendars will remain perpetual calendars and will remain fascinating for that. Or split-second chronographs, or minute repeaters. But there is always a possibility to reinvent and to express the craftsmanship in a way that is extremely modern. That's our duty, and that's a duty I will pass on to my kids or to the next generation of people inside Czapek, for the next generation of watch lovers. Reinvent a craft that is 400 years old and make it super modern, but keeping the soul, keeping the essence. don't betray yourself.
So
That's what is, I would say, the most important thing. Stay true to yourself.
certainly, you know, bringing new perspectives, especially with the new generation of watch collectors coming up, and staying true to your DNA is absolutely key. And now I think we should end with Mr. Pascal Raffy. You know, obviously you were talking about tradition with Bovet, and how do you plan to incorporate this with the newer generation of watch collectors?
I have to tell you, we already started. If you look at the Bovet pocket timepieces of the 19th century, yes, indeed, they are traditional. If you look at the Aperto Uno, a sporty timepiece, absolutely skeletonized, again, made in this fully integrated facility, which is ours, it is also an inspiration coming from my children and my team. I'm very lucky to have my oldest daughter already with us. Audrey could not be here today. She broke her arm, but she would have loved to be, of course, with us. Alexandra is studying Amadeo also, so my AAA will join all together the House of Bovet, surrounded by our teams, because they go very well together. They share the same dignity and noblesse and respect for the house. So it will come by evolutions. I very much believe in wisdom and humility. It will come step by step, and I would love to look at all of them from the back. I had to prepare the house for that, but what I dream about is to have all of them together and step by step without selling the soul of the house.
So ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for this topic, evolution of product development in independent brands, from Mr. Pascal Raffy, Mr. Xavier, and of course Mr. Ong Ban and Mr. Wei Koh for leading our session.